Too independent for radio and not handsome enough for TV, it's the Walt Bonetti Podcast.
Welcome to episode 43 of the Walt Bonetti Podcast for March 18th. The Walt Bonetti Podcast is brought to you by the Original Italian Pie of Kenner, 3600 Williams Boulevard, just a little bit north of West Esplanade. You can dine in or call them, 469-4999, and they'll have your order ready for pickup, or they will deliver it to your home or your office. Or you can order online at orderitalianpie.com. On today's podcast, Beto for president. Not. State Treasurer John Schroeder says the state is spending even more money that isn't theirs. Imagine that. Our friend Jarvis DeBerry at NOLA.com proves once again that he is a racist bigot. And a Michigan woman goes ballistic at a Burger King because she doesn't get it her way. But first, these quick hits. Get your brackets out because it is officially March Madness time. LSU's men's basketball team was named a third seed in the NCAA tournament. The Tigers play Yale Thursday at 11:40 a.m. in Jacksonville. The game will air on True TV, Cox Channel 61. Texas Democrat Beto O'Rourke, who lost to Senator Ted Cruz in 2018, announced he will seek the Democratic nomination for president next year. Since he's unemployed, he has plenty of time to campaign. O'Rourke raised and spent about $80 million in losing to Cruz, but the attraction of donating to Beto was from liberals hoping to unseat Cruz. It's doubtful he will be able to tap into that same gold vein when he's running against multiple Democrats. The executive director of the Louisiana Republican Party was arrested Saturday night at about 3 a.m. in New Orleans after his wedding. Andrew Bouch was charged with battery, criminal trespass, and resisting obstructing an officer. Hold on, honey. The consummation of our wedding is going to have to wait until after I get back from seeing my friend Bubba down at OPP. Bouch is now on his honeymoon in an undisclosed location. 10 University of Louisiana at Monroe trumpet students have volunteered to play taps at funeral services for veterans. This is a great idea that should be copied nationwide. Often, veteran funeral services have to play a recording of taps. Having a real trumpeter there makes a big difference. So props to these ULM students. State Treasurer John Schroeder wants state legislators to stop spending unclaimed money that belongs to you and not the state. Schroeder said between $30 and $40 million annually has been kicked back into the state's general fund from unclaimed property. Louisiana gets about $90 million each year in unclaimed property, usually tax refunds that go uncashed, rent and utility deposits unable to be forwarded when people move or die, and forgotten bank accounts, etc. In total, the state has about $855 million in unclaimed property. You can also search the unclaimed property database at louisiana.findyourunclaimedproperty.com. That's louisiana.findyourunclaimedproperty.com. Kenner State Representative Joe Stagney searched the database last year and found many constituents, including me, on the list. After completing the forms, copying my ID, and mailing everything back, I got back over $600. It can take up to 90 days, though, to get your cash. So go to louisiana.findyourunclaimedproperty.com today. Fill it out today. It's your money. It's just sitting there. louisiana.findyourunclaimedproperty.com. If you don't, the state's going to spend it. And don't they already spend more than enough of your money? Liberty's Kitchen in New Orleans is partnering with Delgado Community College to allow Liberty's Kitchen participants and alumni to attend a free college and career readiness class this spring at Delgado. The program is funded by the Conrad Hilton Foundation. Liberty's Kitchen works with at-risk youth and provides a range of services, including training and leadership development. And now this. It's Monday, and you cooked a big meal for the family yesterday. You don't want to cook tonight. So think about the original Italian Pie of Kenner. They're at 3600 Williams Boulevard, just a little bit north of West Esplanade. You know where they are. You can also call them, 469-4999, and they'll have your order ready for pickup on your way home, or they will deliver it to your home or your office. Or you can order online at orderitalianpie.com. Eat some great food. Treat the family to a night out of cooking that isn't yours from the original Italian Pie of Kenner. And if you needed even another reason to go to the original Italian Pie of Kenner, yesterday, Sunday, March 17th, was the owner Sean's birthday. So go there. Tell him happy birthday. I'd sing, but I promise to never do that on the podcast because my singing is reserved for the shower and the car when I'm alone, and it's not for public consumption. But go to the original Italian Pie of Kenner, 3600 Williams Boulevard, just a little bit north of West Esplanade. You can call them, 469-4999, and they'll have your order ready for pickup, or they will deliver to your home or your office. Or you can order online at orderitalianpie.com. That's the original Italian Pie of Kenner, when you want some great food.
Maybe you can take some consolation in the fact that something you created is making so many people happy.
Oh, look at me. I'm making people happy. I'm the magical man from Happy Land in a gumdrop house on Lollipop Lane.
Walt Bonetti.
Welcome back. Thanks again for spending part of your day with the podcast. You know, it's difficult for me to criticize someone's opinion. I mean, that's what I do. I give my opinion. So when I read or hear others' opinions, I consider them as just that, someone's opinion. Because I'm not a quote-unquote journalist. When I offer my opinion, I also try to give you my reasoning behind my opinion. Now, I'm not trying to convince you that I'm right, but I want you to know how I got where I got. Now, if you don't want to come along for the ride, or you already don't like the destination before we even depart, well, that's on you. Like I said, I'm not a journalist, and I've never pretended to be one. But if you're paid by a newspaper or broadcaster, if you have a degree in journalism, you are a journalist, and you should be held to a much higher standard than a guy like me. So when you spout your opinion, you better bring it. And when you don't, you damage the word journalist. This weekend, Jarvis DeBerry of NOLA.com and the New Orleans Times-Picayune damaged journalism. Yes, he gave his opinion. And yes, as with 99% of DeBerry's opinions, I vehemently disagree with him. Now, I don't disagree with his right to offer his opinion. I disagree with the facts and the logic, or the lack thereof, that he uses when he proposes his opinions. Here's why. DeBerry wrote an attack piece under the guise of giving his opinion. The column, titled, quote, "Unlike Robert E. Lee, real heroes show moral courage." Many people, particularly in the black community, don't view Lee or anyone associated with the Confederacy as a hero. While I live in Louisiana now, I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. Robert E. Lee wasn't one of my heroes growing up. But as a student of history, and not the revisionist history that DeBerry and Mitch Landrieu subscribe to, you can't argue the positive things that Lee did, his accomplishments, or that some do revere him. He was a graduate of West Point, and he served with distinction in the U.S. Army for 32 years. That alone makes him a hero. While Virginia seceded from the Union, Lee left the U.S. military to join his home state, just as men everywhere in the U.S. did. Lee wanted the Union to stay intact. He wasn't a politician. He was a career military man. Lee opposed the construction of public monuments to the Confederacy because that would prevent our country from healing after the war. Yes, Lee also opposed giving blacks the right to vote. But to put things into proper context, at that time, many whites also weren't allowed to vote. It would be almost 60 years after the Civil War before women were allowed to vote in the United States. Women weren't given voting rights in France until 1944, decades after the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. But you don't hear DeBerry advocating for us to abandon Louisiana's French roots because of this outrage. Look, Lee was wrong to want to deny voting rights to blacks. Many people were wrong, and I'm not going to justify that. But being wrong doesn't make you less of a hero. It just makes you wrong. But when you write a piece, even an opinion piece, and quote a true traitor like W.E.B. Du Bois, you've lost all credibility. Calling W.E.B. Du Bois, quote, one of the most prominent intellectuals of his time is ludicrous. Du Bois was a socialist and a founder of the NAACP. In my opinion, any person associated with a group that espouses one race over another is by definition a racist. Whether it's white nationalists, the KKK, the Black Panthers, or any group with a race in their name, if you belong to a group like that, you're a racist. And Du Bois was a racist. While Du Bois pushed for civil rights for blacks, he didn't support a woman's right to vote. Was he wrong, Mr. DeBerry? Should someone in the 20th century that opposed women's voting rights be considered a hero or a prominent intellectual? How is it okay to besmirch the record and legacy of Robert E. Lee while promoting the legacy of someone who also was wrong about something as important as women's voting rights? That makes no sense to me. I'm not debating Du Bois' impact on society, particularly in the black community. But to blast Lee for not wanting blacks to vote while revering Du Bois, someone who didn't want women to vote, is hypocritical. If you've ever heard me speak, listened to the radio show or the podcast, or read my blog, you know that I detest labels, and I criticize those who deserve criticism. I will also fight for what I believe is right, even if it costs me. I don't know how to not fight for what I believe is right. Du Bois, like Lee, fought for what he believed was right. Unlike Lee, however, DeBerry puts Du Bois on a pedestal, and the New Orleans Times-Picayune continues to give the racist DeBerry a platform. Here is what Du Bois said in his own words. He was, quote, convinced that socialism was an excellent way of life. Quote, capitalism cannot reform itself. It is doomed to self-destruction. Quote, this the American black man knows. His fight here is a fight to the finish. Either he dies or he wins. How do any of those incorrect statements show the moral courage that DeBerry claims is lacking in Robert E. Lee in W.E.B. Du Bois? I'm not saying that everything Du Bois said or wrote was wrong, but it must be admitted even by a racist like DeBerry that Du Bois was flawed and far from perfect. To not acknowledge those flaws is hypocritical, even for DeBerry. To allow his continued propaganda to be published, even by the liberal Times-Picayune, is also hypocritical. Journalism should be colorblind. When racism hides under the cloak of journalism or opinion, it must be criticized, not celebrated, and certainly not celebrated by a newspaper. A small-town newspaper publisher in Alabama was rightly criticized when, in an opinion piece, he called for the return of the KKK. Yet, when a black person writes equally racist and ignorant words, no one calls him out, except a lowly blogger and podcast host.
Now, the Walt Bonetti Podcast Dumbass of the Day.
A Michigan woman was charged with obstruction, malicious damage to property, disorderly conduct, and assault and battery after she went ballistic at a Burger King because a burger she ordered the day before was made incorrectly, allegedly. Portia Tyler demanded her money back because the burger had tomatoes on it, and she didn't order it that way. Tyler tried to climb over the counter but was stopped by her fiancé. She then threw a cookie rack, a wet floor sign, and food at a store clerk. So, for going to jail because of tomatoes, just pick them off if you don't like them. Portia Tyler is our dumbass of the day. A Jacksonville, Florida woman became so irate when a car rental company didn't have a vehicle for her that she stole one that was being cleaned and drove it off the lot. Employees found the vehicle about a mile away in a hotel parking lot. When she was asked why she stole the car, the unidentified woman said, quote, "I didn't take it. The demons took it." Those darn demons, they do everything. Those demons create all kinds of mischief. Another Florida woman, hey, thank God I got out of Florida, right? Shot her boyfriend after they argued because he snored too loudly. Lori Morin was charged with attempted murder and aggravated battery after shooting her boyfriend of 3 weeks with a shotgun. The poor guy even tried nose strips to limit his snoring. But after a night out drinking, Morin came home to her snoring boyfriend and shot him. He's recovering in a Florida hospital. Well, that puts a wrap on today's podcast. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, story ideas, please email waltbradio@gmail.com. That's waltbradio@gmail.com. Please support our sponsor, the Original Italian Pie of Kenner, 3600 Williams Boulevard, just a little bit north of West Esplanade. You can dine in. They have great service. Or you can call ahead, 469-4999, and they'll have your order ready for pickup, or they will deliver to your home or your office. Or you can order online at orderitalianpie.com. As we tell you every day, please go out and be a blessing. Change someone's life today, even if it's your own. You can do it. You really can. Thanks for listening.
Walt Bonetti,